Welcome back everybody. In today's C++ tutorial, I'll be giving you an introduction to classes and objects. So we'll begin with classes. What are classes in C++? Classes are a simple way to group your functions and variables together. So if you have a group of similar functions, you can group them together in a class. For example, you may have more than 1,000 functions and you need to find all the functions related to temperature. By putting them in a class, you've already made your life easier by making those functions easier to find. So that is how classes can be quite useful. So let's talk about how to create a class. You first need to make sure you're outside your main. So first of all, type the word class, then add a space, and give your class a name. Usually programmers will use capital letters for the name. So you can type any name you like. Let's call it my class. Then add curly braces and then a semicolon. So all your functions and your variables and anything you want in your class will go inside the body of your class. The name given to creating a class in C++ is declaring a class. Before adding functions, let's discuss something called access specifiers. There will be times when you'd like to create functions which you can use only in your class, and other times you'd like to make functions which anyone can use outside of the class. So if you want main to use the functions only within your class, you need to make the functions private. However, if you want to allow main to use the functions outside of the class, then you need to make the functions public. So remember, when you use the public access specifier, you're telling main it can use the functions outside the class. So to use the public access specifier, type public : this means that anything you type after this, you can use it outside of the class. If you didn't have that, you could only use it here in the class and not outside, which is pointless if you need to use it in main. So now we'll create a simple function as before, just to print something on the screen. So it won't make any calculations or take any parameters, as it's just printing on the screen. So we need to type void. Then name it something. I shall name it captions. It's a simple function, so no need for parameters. So we'll ask it to print on the screen, creativity takes courage, then end the line. So all this function will do is print creativity takes courage on the screen. So here in this class we have the class declaration, class body, public, and one function. So now we can use this. So now we've talked about classes, let's go on to objects. What is an object? An object is basically how you access the things inside your class. The reason we need to use objects is because whenever you're making big computer programs and there are lots of different classes and functions, you may have the function captions in different classes. For example, you may have the caption function in the temperature class. You may also have the caption function inside the music class, and it may also be in another class. The C++ program basically needs to know what function you want to use. In order to know this, it needs an object. The object tells the program which class you are working with. To create an object is very similar to creating a variable. First you have to type the name of the class, which could be music class. Then give your object a name, so it can be guitar. Then add a semicolon. So you use the object, in this case guitar, whenever you need to access anything inside your class. So now we type the name of the object first rather than the function name. So we begin with guitar. Then we need to use a dot separator to access anything within the class. This dot separator enables us to access everything in the class, such as functions, variables, etc. So when we put in the dot separator, it already knows what we want to do. So here we want to access the function named caption as before, then empty parameters. And there you go. When we build and run this, we can see Creativity Takes Courage appear on screen and no errors, so the program works just fine. So to recap, programmers make classes in order to group similar functions. For example, if I had a program with different captions, I'd group them together in one class. We then put functions inside the class, but you must make it public so that main can also use it. In this case, we have a class, we put a function inside it, and we made it public. Now, we'd like to use this function inside the class. However, we can't just type caption, because if there were different classes, the program wouldn't know which class or function named caption to use. If we want to use that function, we need to make an object of that class. So we need to make an object called guitar, which belongs to the music class. So when we use the object guitar, the program knows we'll be working with music class. If we use guitar caption, C++ will know that we want to use the function caption, which is in the music class. That is why you need objects and classes. That was the basics of classes and objects, and why you need to make objects before being able to access the things inside the class. This was the basics behind object-oriented programming. It does appear confusing, however, once you do understand it, the rest of programming becomes very simple to comprehend. It's important to keep going over this tutorial until you fully understand how to make classes and objects and why they are so useful. So, thank you for your time, and we'll meet again in the next tutorial.